We are in a very bizarre situation where Remain MPs said they couldn't decide about the issue of whether we should leave, or all MPs indeed, whether we could leave or remain in the European Union way back in, 2015. So they decided to give us, ordinary voters, you and me, a vote in a referendum in 2016. We had that vote, and then they insisted that, they accepted the result, but they just needed to make sure that Parliament had its say on triggering Article 50. So they went to court to force the then Prime Minister Theresa May to give MPs that vote before Article 50 was triggered. So she gave them the vote, and they voted for it because they did respect the vote. And then they said that they did, again, still support implementing that result, but they just wanted to approve the kind of Brexit we had. And for some reason, that involved a second referendum, which, again, for some bizarre reason, including an option to remain. Then they claimed they just wanted to stop a no-deal Brexit. They wanted to implement the result, but just didn't want a no-deal Brexit because a deal would be so much better. So they voted for the Benn Act to undermine the ability of Boris Johnson to get a deal. And then when the Prime Minister last week actually came back with a deal, and I'm sorry, as a leaver, a good deal, MPs once again said, well, obviously they want the deal. They just once again wanted to have a vote to stop him getting that deal through Parliament without some more scrutiny from MPs. What can we possibly read into this, other than the fact that actually these MPs don't want Brexit, don't want a deal, don't want no deal. They just want us to remain. Maybe that's because 75% of them voted for Remain in 2016. How are we ever going to get over this without a general election? Well, who knows? Let's put that question to my next guest, former spin doctor Tony Blair, of course, and now leading light in the People's Vote campaign, Alastair Campbell. Good morning to you, sir.
Julia, thank you for your very, very partial and loaded essay.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I like to provide an antidote to other media. I don't pretend to be neutral on this issue. At least I'm honest about my lack of neutrality.
No, I agree with that. And in that you stand in great contrast to most of the newspapers, which are totally biased in favour of not just of Brexit, but anything Boris Johnson says. And it is extraordinary that a deal that Theresa May did that was seen by many of them as a total capitulation, and Johnson does a deal which they sort of hailed as a great triumph. And then at the weekend, when he's said he would die in a ditch rather than ask for an extension, it's then seen as a great triumph that he's asked for an extension, but he didn't sign the letter. So I think we're in Alice in Wonderland territory on some of this. And I also think your point about that the job of MPs is to scrutinise legislation. I think what happened at the weekend is absolutely right. Boris Johnson, who is one of the most untrustworthy individuals known to man, was asking Parliament to take, without any detail whatsoever, a deal that does have huge implications for the economy and for the Union of the United Kingdom. And you made in your very loaded essay, you mentioned we're still a United Kingdom, but I do think that the deal that he's bringing forward, you've seen this with the reaction of the Unionists in Northern Ireland, I do think it puts the Union at risk, and that is not something that we can just kind of, wave through on the nod when it's Boris Johnson.
No, I think lots of people are concerned about that. But surely you're saying it again, there's been a great spin operation by Number 10, and Remainers like yourself very unhappy about Boris Johnson breaking his promise, saying he would do or die Brexit, no deal Brexit, or do any kind of Brexit by October the 31st. And he's, as you said, he'd rather be dead in a ditch than write that letter as required by the Benn Act. But you were the ones who wanted him to obey the law and insisted the Prime Minister had to obey the law. He obeyed the law. Why are you so bothered about it?
No, I'm simply saying that I'm sorry, I'm making a slightly different point. I'm making the point that one of the reasons why people are so reluctant just to say, OK, well done, Boris Johnson, let's just now do what you're telling us to do, is because of his record of breaking promises and because of his record of throwing people under the bus. So I'm making the point that this deal has such massive ramifications for the future. And also, Julia, you say that from your perspective it's a good deal. Well, it might be from your perspective, but it all depends now on the debate that takes place in the future. It's not settled now. This debate about one of the biggest lies of this whole process from Johnson is this will get Brexit done. It doesn't get.
No, I don't know. Everyone understands that.
That's why Nigel Farage is so critical.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, absolutely. Look, it's not an ideal deal in the perfect world. I just want a free trade agreement and that's it, move on. But the reality is we have to get through this process where we stop the rows about whether or not we have Brexit, but we can actually get to the point where we can start negotiating our future relationship with the EU. There was quite a different feel last week, and I don't think it was just media spin perception. There was a feel, I think, in the country of, wow, there's a deal. Lots of people didn't think Boris Johnson would get a deal. He's got a deal, and now we can actually perhaps move forward. And then that was all scuppered on Saturday. Now I was on College Green, actually presenting a show here on Talk Radio in the afternoon, and I walked through the People's Vote March to the crowd. They were really buoyant, and I overheard one guy say to the group he was with, saying, the important thing is we ruined Boris Johnson's day, and that's the main thing. And the rest of them all agreed. And I thought, but that's not the main thing. The reality the reality, of course, is that we are still in a situation where nothing is resolved. We're not moving forward. And your side has said again and again and again, look, we accept each vote, we accept each outcome, we accept where we are each time. And each time you've just moved the goalpost. Whatever, as I said in my opening comments, every single time we get close, like, it's worried about a no deal. All right, we take no deal off the table. Oh, no, we don't like the deal. There is never going to be a point when you're going to accept anything other than a vote to remain. If we had a second referendum and the vote was to leave again, you still wouldn't accept that.
This is the longest question of the century so far. Let me answer that point. I have never moved the goalposts. I have been clear from the word go that this is such a massive decision, and that it is absolutely right that whatever the outcome of the Brexit negotiations, they should be put back to the people in a confirmatory referendum. I've always said that, and I actually think that the way the argument has panned out since then has underlined the need for that. And there's no big decision that we make in our lives without saying, OK, let's check. And this deal, the Boris Johnson deal, whether it's on the economy, whether it's on the nature of our relationship with Europe, with the institutions of the rest of the world, whether it's about the relationship with the rest of the United Kingdom, Great Britain and Northern Ireland in particular, the implications for Scotland too, if this had been the deal that had been put forward in 2016, no way would it have got through. And I think that asking the public if they still wish to proceed on the basis of what we now know is the right thing to do, and it's the democratic thing to do. And you now have a deal. I said the same thing when Theresa May got her deal. Once you have that deal, put it back to the people and say, is this what you want? How can that remotely be undemocratic?
I'd be perfectly happy to have a referendum on whether we have this deal or a no-deal Brexit. I just don't understand why you think Remain should be on the ballot paper. Asked and answered.
Because that is where a massive section of public opinion is.
But they lost last time round.
Yes, I know.
So now we're asking, how do we Brexit?
Wait a minute, I accept that. And will of the people, those people that you walk through, whatever arguments they were making about ruining Boris Johnson's big day, that was a very, very, very large number of people who agree that they think they should be given the final say on something so important.
How many people was it, by the way? Are we up to 5 million now in terms of the people on the march?
I have no idea.
You were claiming 2 million yesterday, weren't you?
2 million. I was saying, you see, this is what you do, I'm afraid. You don't want honest, straightforward debate.
I do. You sent a tweet saying, hey, one of the media groups saying they think it might have been 2 million. You posted that on Twitter.
Julia, I know better than you what I said. What I said was, I think if you look at it, you'll see that my usual good nature and humour is coming through. I said German television had some fancy gizmo that crowd measures, and they said they thought there were 2.2 million. Yes. That's what I said.
I know, but the point is, it wasn't 17.4 million, was it? That's the key point.
Of course it wasn't, because, and at the time of the referendum, there weren't 17.4 million people who marched. There were 17.4 million people who voted.
Yeah, and votes count more than marches. That's how democracies work.
Unclear about what it was going to mean. And a lot of the people on that march on Saturday, Julia, a lot of them voted amongst that 17.4 million and now think that they want to vote again because they've changed their minds.
Of course they do. Guys, I've met so many people who voted Leave and want a second referendum. Can we also talk about what's gone on behind the scenes? No, I want to talk about what's gone on behind the scenes at the People's Vote rally, because you've been... Alastair, you've been in the papers over the weekend about you and Peter Mandelson, your old mate, plotting against Roland Rudd, the millionaire donor and backer of the People's Vote or Open Britain campaign, to oust him from this with some rather underhand methods. The black arts of Mandelson and Campbell emerged once again. What would you have to say about those reports?
Well, before I answer that, I'm going to make the point I was going to make. I will answer that totally. I would like to suggest that I bring to your studio some of the Remain and Now people who have voted Leave, who voted Leave in 2016. Now, can I do that? Can we have that arrangement that I can do that?
All right, let's do that. But I want you to answer the question I've just asked you.
Okay, I'll answer the question. Well, first of all, I wouldn't, as you know, I have a fairly robust relationship with the Mail newspapers, and therefore I think you're reading from the Mail on Sunday.
It's in other papers as well.
Well, it may be because it was in the Mail on Sunday. That's my point. Now, on the campaign, I've been involved in lots of campaigns. I honestly don't think I've ever been involved in in so many ways, in more successful campaign than this one. Now, along the way, are there divisions sometimes about personnel and also about direction? Of course there are. But this has been a campaign that has gone from a standing start not that long ago to a campaign that has now produced two of the biggest protests this country's ever seen, and has got the parliamentary debate in touching distance of actually getting a confirmatory referendum. So, frankly, I think that is way more important than some newspaper trying to make loads of mischief out of, people, and also, to be honest, I think the email they quoted from me was saying that this has to be swift and brutal. Well, I just think that is sort of, the kind of thing.
Did you write the email or not?
Oh, yes, I did. Yes,
you did.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's not real. Yeah.
It's almost like all is not well, the behind the scenes. So, can I ask you one final question on something completely different? Everyone's shouting at me to go to a break, but I do want to ask your thoughts. As a leading spinner over the years, any advice you'd give Prince Harry and Meghan Markle?
Oh, my Lord. I didn't see the documentary, so I don't quite know what we're talking about, but I don't know, really. I mean, the only interaction I've ever had with Prince Harry has been in relation to campaigning on mental health, and I think he's done a great job on that. So my advice would be to do lots more of that.